Sun Belt Championship game is moving into prime time. It's Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, so a lot of TV games were announced as it just doesn't end with the college football season about 2 months away, or 3 months away. 3 months away, June, July, August. So 3 months away. And everyone is very anxiously awaiting it. In the middle of all of that, we have the college football game is coming back from EA Sports. Okay. And the Sun Belt got a bunch of games on nationally, especially early. We'll get to those, and then all of the other national TV games that were announced, midweek games for the Sun Belt as well. But the big news was the Sun Belt Championship game is moving to the night. It is at 6:30 Central Time, by the way, on December 7th. That would mean if, say, who could be hosting it in the East? Oh, I don't know. JMU in Harrisonburg, or where else? Lovely Boone, North Carolina. 7:30 at night on December 7th. Could be a little chilly. I don't even know if they play each other. Do they play each other? I don't think. That's going to be crazy. Now we got to... Boy, they asked me what the tiebreakers were for baseball, and if that didn't hurt my head enough, I don't know what the home field advantage is going to be other than better record, right? Because I don't think App State plays Texas State. They do not. Okay. All right. So we're already going to look at that as who's getting that home field advantage. And there's going to be a slight differential in temperature between San Marcos, Texas, and Boone, North Carolina, or Harrisonburg, Virginia. Anybody? Well, the Cajuns had 8.5 wins as well. Over under. I may wait for that. By the way, on a side note, I may wait for that to go down before I take the over. Anyway, anyways, the game is at 6:30 prime time. Now, what that does is, the SEC game is in the middle of the day, right? The Big 12 is usually first, then the SEC, and that's followed by the Big 10. All right. And now this year, you got all kinds of craziness with, Texas and Oklahoma moving from the Big 12. So you may get some new teams playing in that. We'll see if anybody cares. And then, the Big 10 has USC and UCLA, and neither one of them are supposed to be any good this year, as USC trying to get out of the LSU game to open up the season. Or at least they tried. Anyway, so this gives a nice platform for, at least in the South, for the Sun Belt. All right. And, depending on who is in the Big 10, who is in the Big 10 championship, right? That, if you don't have Ohio State or Michigan in the Big 10 championship, and I would presume Ohio State's got to be a favorite this year, right? With all of those guys from Michigan's playoff teams and coach either in the NFL or eligibility is gone. We'll see what Ryan Day can do. I presume they'll win it, but if somehow you get, and I don't know who the divisions are, but if you get a little bit of a lackluster, no offense to the other teams, but we'll see who's interested. Here's the difference, though, going this year, is that Sun Belt Championship very well could be for, and the Big Ten as well, who's going to be in the playoff, and that nice segue, we'll get to that because both Texas State and App State have a shot at making the college football playoff. Not because I think either one of them are, well, I think both of them are going to be very good. I do. Okay. People commented on the over-unders with App that they got a really tough out-of-conference schedule. Texas State, you got Arizona State coming into town. And so those are the early opportunities. I see that as opportunities. South Alabama did not take advantage of their opportunities last year. There was no playoff last year. But South Alabama did not take advantage of their opportunities. If these two teams are, because they're not playing each other, are 11-1 or both 10-2, there's a very good shot that the winner will get into the college football playoff, and they'll be able to get to show it off on a national level, and it is on the mothership ESPN. So that's huge. So that'll be big. Will they be playing it in the Bayou or in Texas? Or will they be playing it? Isn't Harrisonburg in a valley? I got a feeling it's in a valley. Boone is in the mountains. But I always thought that Harrisonburg is kind of surrounded by the mountains. May not be, sea level per se, but I feel like I don't know. It's supposed to be very scenic, very nice, but also could be very cold if they're playing 7:30 on a Saturday in December. But that was the big news that came out on Thursday, where all the TV ball games and the Sun Belt going prime time on ESPN. That's big, and especially if they're coming out with the playoff teams the next day. That's enormous. So now let's take a timeout because it is a huge opportunity for the two teams that I happen to think are the favorites. I think App State is the favorite in the East, and I think Texas State is the favorite in the West. And both of them have nationally televised games to get them in the top 25 and to get some national recognition as well. All right, so let's take a timeout. I'll tell you about Game Time, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about those early opportunities for the Bobcats and the Mountaineers as they are getting some national exposure. Yes, they are. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Game Time. Game Time makes getting NBA Finals tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. I told you we surprised my nephew for his high school graduation. We saw Game 6 of the Pacers and Knicks. Game Time was fantastic. We got parking with it. It was fantastic. Really easy app to use. And I loved getting that panoramic view to see where we were sitting. All right. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. You get those zone deals. Save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. And they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We are heading to College Station for the baseball regional to follow the Cajuns. We'll see how that works out, how the weather is during the week. Weather is not supposed to be great when I'm leaving. So we will see, get off and running, and then pull over. Is probably what is going to happen. Hopefully not on the side of the road. Don't want to pull over on the side of the road. That I feel that's really dangerous on I-10. You get off the highway and sit at a gas station or fast food restaurant or something like that. Okay. So these opportunities, these early opportunities, think there's like 6 games nationally televised. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 week 1. 6 week 1 games. That is it's the last weekend of August. All right. Coastal Carolina is playing Jacksonville State on a CBS network. That kicks everything off. Second week, there's 4 games. The third week, there's 4 more games. So what is that? That's 14. And then you have 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So that's 9 more games in the midweek right now. South Alabama's got 3 midweek games. App State has 2 midweek games. Texas State has 3 midweek ball games. All right. Coastal has a couple, and then Troy is in there. ODU is in there. Seem to have some single games. So that's 23 nationally televised games as of right now. We don't know what's going to happen, right? Like those, game days at JMU and at App State weren't planned. They just materialized, right? App State beat Notre Dame, right? App beat Notre Dame, and then all of a sudden, you have game day at your place. So anything can happen, and that's what I want to talk about with these early opportunities to begin with. And it's not week 1. It is. Here's a tricky one. All right. Texas State is hosting UTSA. They kind of laid an egg last year against UTSA after they beat Baylor. This game's at home. And that it could be a little bit of a trap game because the following week, Arizona State's coming to town. So that's got a little bit of a trap game, although UTSA shouldn't be a trap game for Texas State. You can't look ahead to Arizona State when you're actually playing UTSA at home. So that they slipped up a little bit last year, and they're trying to find that consistency, as it seems to be a big word this year with their football teams. And that game is even on ESPNU. So Texas State getting a little preview before they get Arizona State. The big game that day, that weekend, as far as I'm concerned, and it would help out and lift up all of the Sun Belt, is App at Clemson. That's a primetime game. It's actually 8:00 Clemson time. And I don't happen to think Clemson is nearly as good as other people think. He doesn't use the transfer portal, doesn't want anything to do with the NIL. We'll see if Cade Klubnik, who's pretty good. I don't think he's great. He's not Trevor Lawrence or Deshaun Watson or some others. If he's the guy, right? Last year, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 2,300 yards. I think that's a huge opportunity for App State and the Sun Belt. If they can win that ball game in week 2, then all of a sudden you're going to start hearing, oh, the Sun Belt now has a team that could be looking into the playoff, because that's what happens, right? And we know how the polls work, although they have a tough ball game there next week. I think they play, that's where the next one is. Then App is at East Carolina the next week, and that's on ESPNU. And that's the same week that Arizona State is at Texas State. I would be remiss if I didn't say Arkansas State is at Michigan that same weekend. But although Michigan is losing everybody, that may be a little bit of a stretch. All right. Maybe a tiny bit of a stretch. Nonetheless, those ball games for App and Texas State That is enormous early on because the way the polls work, and it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, this is the way that it is. You keep winning, you'll move up in the polls. Do Sun Belt teams move up as fast as they should? No. But what happens is eventually the teams in front of you all end up playing each other because they're all ACC teams, they're Big 12 teams, they're Big 10 teams, and they're SEC teams. You keep winning, those teams end up usually with 1 or 2 losses, and they fall, and you move up. And it'll be a great chance for both Texas State and App State to get some national recognition for their schools and for the Sun Belt. It is going to be September is a huge month. August and September, huge month for the Sun Belt because you can set the tone early and everybody always looks ahead. It's always the next thing. It's always the next thing, right? It's not what's happening now. It's what happens. All right, this happened, then what happens? And so that's what they'll do. If App goes into Clemson, they'll have it and beats them. They'll be like, watch out for the Mountaineers for the playoffs. That'll be the first thing that comes out, right? And they'll beat Texas State to the bunch, who, I need to find out was Arizona State. I can't keep track of those 2 schools because I think they were good. And Arizona is the one that's all kind of messed up, right? Let me see here. Football. They got the clothes and cookies and everything like that. Football schedule. See, I think Arizona State wasn't bad last year. I could be wrong about that. Let's see. Yeah, they were not good last year. They were 3-9. Okay. But nonetheless, that's all right. Now that may take a little bloom off the rose. That doesn't change that they're not a Power 5 team. All right. That may not look great for Arizona State losing to Texas State, but that's a huge opportunity for Texas State to maybe even get they should be favored in that ball game. They should be favored in that game. But nonetheless, if Texas State is starting out 3-4-0 and App State is the same, and they have wins over Clemson and East Carolina, that's going to be huge. And they get Liberty later on. We don't even know if that game is on TV yet. Let me see here. Is that a midweek game? Let's see. App's got South Alabama that's on TV. And App has Coastal, which is either on ESPN or ESPN2. Okay. That's later on in the season. All right, so let's take a timeout. We'll go over all of the games on national TV. Just quickly list them for you. It is a lot, and the Sun Belt continues to grow. We have some issues. We know what they are, but I think it's really impressive how many games they are getting on national TV. We will do that after I thank you for subscribing. All right, we continue to rock and roll. Almost 1,250 subscribers. We'll be going to cover the Cajuns in the College Station Regional. Should be fun. Never been to College Station, so that should be fun. We'll certainly keep our eye on Southern Miss, JMU, Coastal. I actually saw some. It's not quite as 100% as you think it is. I saw somebody pick the Cajuns today or yesterday. I saw somebody pick Coastal Carolina. I don't think I saw somebody pick JMU. I was kind of surprised at that. And I think I saw somebody pick, I'm not sure if I saw somebody pick Southern Miss. Maybe I did. I'll go with I did. I looked. I didn't see the JMU one. But if one of these teams or multiple of these teams can get through, that'll be a lot of fun for the Sun Belt, all right? And in this case, usually, kind of surprised last year even, Cajuns fans got behind Southern Miss against Tennessee. So in this case, they're not going up against each other. 1 for all and 0 for 1. I even saw Cajuns and LSU fans call a truce for this weekend. Shocking. Just thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. It's a big help. Still going to try to drive for 1,500 for August 31st. So again, thank you so much for subscribing. And don't forget the audio. It's all caught up. You should be able to listen to any of the podcasts where Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You should be able to do that. Apple and Spotify happen to be the two most popular. Thanks so much. Let's get back to it and talk about those Sunbelt National TV games. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so let's just go through these. Try to do it not too quickly, but running out of time. So we said that Coastal and Jacksonville State open things up. That's on CBS Network. That's on August 29th. ULM, oh no, these are just nationally televised games. Obviously, everything is streamed on ESPN+. I think that's Eastern Tennessee State. ETSU is taking on, well, again, I'm doing the ESPN streaming. I got to just stick with the national TV games. Okay. Georgia Southern is hosting Boise State. That's on ESPNU. By the way, App State and Boise just solidified that they're going to play 2025 and 2027 a home and home. Here's an opportunity for ODU. I didn't mention them. They're going to South Carolina. South Carolina's had a lot of turnover, right? Who's bringing in the quarterback with the experience? We'll see what that line is. That may be an interesting opportunity for ODU. They're going into South Carolina, and that game is on the SEC Network. You got Southern Miss at Kentucky. That's an opportunity for the Fighting Will Halls to get off to a good start. Georgia State is going across the street, if you will, taking on Georgia Tech. That's on the ACC Network. And you have JMU is at Charlotte, and that is on ESPNU. And that is all the first weekend. It's either the 29th or, in this case, the 31st. So that's 6 games on national TV. Everything else is streamed. You got the next week, week 2, Troy is at Memphis. That's on ESPNU. Then following that is like a Sunbelt doubleheader. Texas State hosting UTSA. And as I mentioned, big ball game for the Bobcats. All right. The CW is carrying football this year, whatever the case may be. Great opportunity for Marshall going to Virginia Tech. That's on the CW. And the other ball game, as we already mentioned, is the big one. Week 2 is App State at Clemson. Huge ball game for App State. And you want to know what else would happen if App State beat Clemson? All of a sudden, Dabo gets on the hot seat. If he's not already, which I probably don't think he should be, but it'll get up to mild. All right, it may not be medium, but the hot seat will be on if App State goes into Clemson and beats the Tigers. All right, week 3, nationally televised. We told you Arizona State. I think that's a Thursday ball game taking on the Bobcats. That's on ESPN. That's a huge ball game for Texas State. Michigan hosting Arkansas State. That's on the Big Ten Network. You got App State at East Carolina. That's on ESPNU. So again, I see this as a huge opportunity. On the road at Clemson, okay? Then on the road at East Carolina. Those are huge opportunities for those teams to get themselves in the mix nationally. And then you got Troy. Troy's going to Iowa, right? I mean, if you're Troy, you got to score 14 points and you're going to win the football game. However you can do that. That's on FS1. So Troy's got Memphis. That's another team, right? That would kind of under my radar because, new coach, new quarterback, new running back. But Troy's got at Memphis and at Iowa. And this one's on FS1. That is huge. So those are the ball games again. In the first 3 weeks, 14 games nationally televised. And in the total right now, there's 23. But I bet you if App State is highly rated, that game against Liberty is going to be on TV. All right. We'll see, what games the Cajuns can get on if they are any good, right? What happens if South Alabama is better than we think? Those games always seem to happen later on in the year. And as we mentioned, App wasn't hosting game day. JMU wasn't hosting game day. These things are made. Those decisions are made a week in advance. So the better off these teams can get, the better chance they have to be on national TV. Let me check the Raging Cajun schedule. Don't they have like Kennesaw State? Like they have this potential of a schedule to get off to a relatively good start before, I think they go to Wake. Oh, they get Tulane. So they get Grambling and Kennesaw State. The Kennesaw State game's on the road, but Tulane comes to Cajun Field, and then you're at Wake. So the Cajuns, do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But what happens if the Cajuns start 4-0? Then they'll be into that consideration, right? They'll have beaten Tulane, a really good Group of 5 team, and they'll have beaten Wake, a really good Power 5 team. So it's not that those games are incredibly difficult against difficult teams. Arkansas State last year at Oklahoma, right? And then Michigan this year. All right. Clemson should be one of those teams, but I'm not sure that they are. That's all I'm saying. All right. And so the Cajuns have maybe winnable ball games, right? They're not facing Florida State. They're not facing the top team in that conference. Although some people would tell you that Clemson is the top team in the conference. And Wake is not the top team, obviously not either. All right. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully it was a good week. We had a good week back here. Hopefully I'll get to College Station safely, leaving a little bit early, maybe some bourbon hunting. And then the A&M game is first. So the Cajuns don't start till 5. The goal is to arrive before 3 o'clock or by 3 o'clock. All right. It's a 4.5 hour drive. All right. Thank you so much. We will do an episode from wherever for Sunday into Monday, recapping the regionals, and we'll see if, there will be a, one more game on the Monday if someone needs it. So we got lots to do. We do need to set up our conversations with the beat writers. Maybe find those that are not in the NCAA tournament covering baseball, because many are. All right. Thank you so much for hopping on. Really appreciate it. Please continue to subscribe to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Monday.